Hi folks, and welcome to this video. Today we are talking about Age of Sigmar 4th edition, the core rule book, which GW has very kindly sent me free of charge for your reviewing pleasure. Now, I haven't done one of these to camera for a while because I haven't had physical books to review for a while. I'm going to do it a little differently to how I've done these previously. I'm going to talk about a little bit about the book as a whole. What kind of things it's got in it, how it's laid out, that kind of stuff. Maybe not how it's laid out. I'm going to talk a bit about the content of the book. But the main focus, rather than go into a lot of detail on sort of real specifics on rules, which have been covered quite a lot on Warhammer Community, I'm going to pick three threes. I'm going to pick three things in it I like, three things in it I don't like so much, and three things in it which I think are going to split the room. As in, I think people could love it or could hate it. As always, it's going to have a bit of my personal slant on it, a bit of personal bias, but I guess if you're here listening to me, that's kind of what you're wanting anyway, potentially. So, in terms of the book itself, I really like the book. I think they've done a very nice job. It's well structured. It goes through the sort of current the current cataclysm at the end of the Dawnbringer Crusade with the rise of the Skaven. It's got some nice art, some nice little snippets. Then it's got a really nice section on the mortal realms. Goes into each one quite an amount of detail. There's lots of nice artwork. It talks about the cities in the mortal realms, the realm stone. Like, for example, I'm just randomly flicking through here. I'm on Gur, and there's a section on the Rampage of Kragnos, the tribes of the Heartlands, Ironjaws, Cruel Boys, Ogres. Sadly, no bow splitters. See you guys. The Beasts of Thunder. It's got the Kronspine Incarnate. It's got a section on Glimmerings, and that's just one page I have randomly flicked through. The knives. The maps are also quite nice. There's a good level of detail, and I have to say, and this is an amount of personal bias. Where's it gone? On the key for all the mortal realm maps. Now, they have done this before, but I don't know. Maybe this time. They've got Lost Duardin holds on here, which I don't know. Maybe we're going to see in this edition the Duardin leave Cities of Sigmar and sort of more generic Duardin be a thing of their own, or maybe they'll be the holds will sort of be referenced in the Cities of Sigmar. Don't know, but, or maybe it's nothing at all. Maybe it's just a nice little vignette for the map. Don't know. And Hashut Forge City. The Chaos Dwarves were always my favourites, with the silly hats and all the gunpowder and insane contraptions, the hobgoblins with the sneaky backstabbing, and the sorcerers turning to stone. That they were my first favourite army, and I really hope we see them in some form in AOS. Now, we know we're not getting them in Old World. They are legended in Old World, but maybe, just maybe. And there's a lot of focus on here about where the Skaven are popping up in each realm as their cataclysm has been sort of realm wide. Then we've got a couple of pages on each faction. It doesn't go into a huge amount of detail, but the pictures are nice and the detail is to the point, and it feels nice and atmospheric. And there's some lovely dioramas in the middle, and it's split up nicely into order and chaos and destruction, and it feels very AOS-y to me. It really does. Then we come to the rules. Obviously, past the rules, towards the back, there's stuff about Path to Glory. I'm not going to go into that. It's either your thing or it's not. It's not my thing. It does look like it does look quite nice and polished. There is also a glossary where if you want to know what randomly on this page damage pool is, there's a summary, and then it directs you to the part of the core rules. So there is a nice look up at the back of the book. And I hadn't even seen this, a terrain list where I guess all the things you've already got, where Guardian Idol, for example, Guardian Idol, an obstacle, pieces per feature, one size small, and that links into the terrain rules in here. So my three threes, what I want to focus on. Now I ummed and ahed in what order to do these, and I've decided I want to end on a high note, not a low note. So I'm going to go through them with the three things I don't like so much, three things that I think will split the room, you'll either love or you'll hate, and then three things that I really, really, really like about this book and this edition of AOS. There will be other videos talking about other things. Not going to talk about General's Handbook, not going to talk about Spearhead. I will do those in separate vids. The contents of the box, there should be an unboxing video floating around the ether at the same time this is released, if all goes well. One moment, thirsty. Sorry, need water. So, and you may find I flick to the book. I've got, first time ever, I've got notes, but that's more to do with my failing sanity than with any real change in process. So yeah, this is going to bounce around a little bit. Okay, so three things that I am not so keen on. So, and none of these will be surprises, but I'll talk through my rationale why I am a bit about them. So, they've done away with weapon ranges in close combat. You're now either in 3-inch range or you're not in 3-inch range, and everyone can attack. And in concert with that, they've also done away with bravery and battle shock, same as 40k. Your models can no longer flee. Now, as a result, and I think the two are linked, so as a result of no models being able to flee, they've made close combat more deadly, and that's kind of a 40k trait in my mind. The ability of units to delete each other rather than have sort of ongoing attrition, and I'm gonna miss that. I'm gonna miss that. Units might stay there for a while and fight turn on turn on turn, and you can really make the terrain and how any bottlenecks can be an advantage that you can use when in your defences. Not so much now. Everyone within 3 inches is going to get to batter each other, so it's going to be much more decisive combat resolution, and it takes away that flavour of, okay, well, we've killed a whole load of Skaven clan rats, and now a whole load more are going to run. Whereas we've killed a whole load of Nighthaunt, but the rest are staying put because they just do not understand the concept of fear. And I think we lose something from narrative gaming as a result of this change. You can see why they've done it. It is more streamlined. I imagine in competitive play, people don't like the randomness of things running away. They must have a reason for having done it. I'm sad about it. That's number one. Number two, I can find absolutely no reference in this book to allies. And allies, and I've gone back and looked in the third ed book, and there is a bit on how to use allies. It may be that the battle tomes will include things like how Skaven clan Pestilence can include Maggotkin of Nurgle and vice versa. I'm doubting it. The way the way this talks is about it's very much your army has a faction. Your faction is this. Your faction has these abilities. If we were able to layer units from other things in there, it'd be how to do it would be in this book, and I'm sad for the for the narrative opportunities lost and the flavour that you lose. So a few examples come to mind. Fire Slayers are mercenaries. They can be hired by pretty much anyone to do anything. They're a great unit to have allies. You know, our defence, we've hired some Fire Slayers, or your cities of Sigmar, and you are defending a city. That city may well have a murder temple in it, and the Daughters of Cain may be fighting to defend that city, or the Stormcast Eternals. Now I do not believe there is a way of saying I can put my Stormcast next to my cities of Sigmar. In the same way as going, I can't put my Blades of Corn with my Slaves of Darkness, who in the narrative these folks are together an awful lot. So unless they are covering that some way in the battle tomes, that is gone. That also makes me a bit sad. Now, it's still going to have a huge effect on the way I game, because I'll just take him anyway. But it being less formal kind of means it's a thing that's no longer there, and you don't see other people using it, and it's lovely, it's fluffy, it's narrative. I can see how it creates competitive complexity, but I'm a narrative player, not a competitive one, so it makes me sad. Okay, we're nearly through the things I don't like quite so much. I want to get to the good stuff. So the third thing that I am not so keen on is open play is dead. It's gone. There are no references to it. There's no sort of tables of here are your territories, here are your twists, here are your victory conditions. It's just gone. And open play is the way that casual gamers can just pick up some models and throw some dice, and the complexity of the scenario you're trying to play doesn't detract from throwing dice with friends and having fun. And that's how I feel about match play, which is why I don't play it, because it becomes too much of a brain exercise and much less of a casual, let's make the object about having fun rather than the object about winning. So, and even there are obviously some missions in this book. There are 3, but they still, even the basic things in this book still follow the pattern of hold 1, hold 2, hold more than your opponent, and scoring points that are racking up. None of this. There's 4 objectives. If you control more than your opponent at the end of the game, you win. Otherwise, if you equal, it's a draw. Otherwise, you lose. None of that. That's how I want to play, and I still will play like that. My battle reports will still very much be like that. But it makes me sad that it's gone from the game and it's all about the match play side of things. I will just take a pause for a moment. Right, now, let's move on to other things. So, these are the things that I think will split the room. And, probably that split's going to be on a sort of casual/competitive divide, but not necessarily. And I can see reasons why any type of player would like or possibly dislike some of these things. So, they are real room splitters. And the reason I've put them in is that I feel, well, most of them anyway, I feel multiple ways about. I can see both sides. Okay, so the first one is the universal special rules on the cards. Now, we've had lots of previews of these on Warhammer Community. There's a list in the book. These are reasonably well known. But I'll give you a couple of examples. So, back in 3rd Ed, there was... Use the example of when you roll a 6 to hit, you do mortal wounds instead of following the regular rolling to wound cycle. I can't get damage into my head yet, and health, that'll come later. So I'm going to use old school parlance for now. And on Cruel Boys, it was called envenomed weapons, I think. I might be slightly wrong with that. And there was a little description of, the Cruel Boys brew poisons and horrible ick, and they coat it on their blades, and the mere scratch from one of these weapons is enough to cause instant fever and send the body into shock and removed as a casualty. And then you have the other side of the coin. You have or had redeemers, the retributors. I know that didn't sound right. Retributors for the Stormcast Eternal, and they have a rule called Blast to Ashes. And again, the fluff says
someone is at the front door.
The fluff doesn't say someone's at the front door. 1 minute. Sorry about that. Amazon always seems to arrive either when I'm filming a video or when I'm in the bathroom. One or the other. Anyway, so there's a nice fluffy rule on their cards that says Blast to Ashes, and it says the lightning stored in the hammers of the Retributors discharges on impact and obliterates the target into ash. Oh, lovely, fluffy. They both do the same thing. With the Universal Special Rules and on the cards, it just says crit mortal. So I'm like, what? But how? I mean, and like, you see the utility. It makes it really quick. It makes it universally easy to understand. There's more space on the cards. Everyone knows what it is. You don't have to read through it. You glance at it and go, crit mortals. I know exactly what that is. But then, how do I know when I pick up something new and look at it and go, oh, it's got crit mortals? How do I know whether it's an envenomed blade or being blasted to ashes? I don't know that I'll know, and I don't know where that, or I'll find that in the books or in the battle tomes. So, will I lose all the flavour? It just feels a little bit utilitarian, but bland. So I could go either way, because also it does take longer to play when you're checking every card. Right, let me check all my rules. Read. Ah, right, this does mortal wounds. So, yeah, I could go either way. I think that one splits the room. Okay, so here's the next one. Everything in this book is an ability. So, the way it's written is when you use the fight ability, rather than in the combat phase, your unit may fight and pick an opponent and do this and do that. It's the fight ability, and then it describes the fight ability. And I can see the utility of that from a rules point of view, because you can say use the shoot ability, and then you might have a command that says use the shoot ability, and then anything anywhere else that says when you use the shoot ability you can do this, rather than all the questions of does that apply to Overwatch, to Unleash Hell, which isn't a thing anymore. But does it apply to this? Does it apply to that? What if I'm falling back? What if I'm doing this? What if I'm doing the other? Well, those questions are going to disappear, because they are all covered in this ability framework. It's a bit difficult to get your head around, though, when you're used to reading you attack in the combat phase. It's, if your unit has used a shooting ability, if your unit has not used the charge ability or the run ability, then you may use the the fight ability. Okay, there's a lot of double negatives in here, but yeah, I'll get my head around that eventually. But it's when it says things like, this unit may use the deploy ability. What, you're telling me put him at the table as a deployment ability? Yeah. Really? Isn't that a bit much? I don't know, do we need that? It's one of these things, you read it once, and okay, yeah, I know what that is. Right, I've deployed that unit. But if I was playing with someone and they said, I'm going to use the deploy ability. put something down, my head wouldn't. Nah. So, like I say, that's one that I think is going to split the room. On that, I can see the utility, but I can also see bit much. Okay, and this next one will also split the room. Regular viewers will have no problem knowing which side of this I am on. It's been very succinctly summarised that when you are rolling to hit, rolling to wound, or rolling armour saves, you may never add more than +1 or take away more than -1. That adds a lot of balance in match to play games. It limits the potential for really obscure gross combos to come up, and I can see why people want that. So no matter how beardy how beardy your opponent might be, they're never going to be able to get more than a +1 or a -1, no matter what kind of shenanigans they try. Equally, as a narrative player, if I am running and blinded and I'm impaled, and there's like 4 things where I should be at -1 to do what I'm doing, I want it to be -4, because they are running, looking into the sun whilst they've been impaled, and it's a Tuesday, and I want those cumulative effects, because as a narrative player, I like those moments, or the I can't fail this, or I can't pass this, because that helps me tell the story as a narrative player, and it feeds into my peaks and troughs. I can't remember what film it was from, but it was someone giving. It was a lady giving advice to a younger chap, and they were saying that the difference between the roller coaster and the helter skelter. Yes, the roller coaster's got its peaks, and it's got its troughs, but the helter skelter just goes round and round and round, and it's not very exciting. Can't remember what film that's from. No, and that's how it's sort of. It cuts off the peaks and the troughs. I like the peaks and the troughs. Many people out there won't and don't, but I'm sure there are also many people out there like me who do. So yeah, I think that splits the room. Okay, right, now it's just me being excited here on in, and things that I really like. And it's a little bit of a cop-out, because it is 3 things, but one of them is a lot of little things that weren't big enough to be a thing, but have an overall holistic effect of like, yeah, that's a thing. So, first thing, the changes to priests. I really, really, really like the changes to priests. Previously, if you had a priest, you just rolled a dice. You needed either probably a 3 or a 4, and then it either happened or it didn't, just like a spell. If you rolled a 1, you got slapped in the head by your god, who went not good enough, and you took damage. And there wasn't really a huge amount else to it. And you had invocations and that you could summon, but I'll come on to those in a little bit. But what they've done now, and it really does make them different, I say really, fundamentally they're still pretty similar, but contextually really different. To anyone who doesn't play this kind of game that you were explaining it to, they'd probably go, what's the difference? But it's really different. So, a wizard and a spell is pretty much as it was. You've got a target number, you've got some dice, you roll it, you get it, you don't get it. A priest, you're chanting and you gain ritual points, I think they're called. Basically, you get to accumulate your total from one turn to another. So you might have a really uber powerful prayer that might be, I don't know, you need 12 to count. You roll a dice one turn, and then you add that number, and then next turn you add another dice and you add that number. And some of them, from what I can see, have got stepped effects. So if you get it as far as 6, you can either release it and have the effects at 6, or you can go, no, I'm going to wait another turn, I'm going to get the 8. But you've also got the risk of, if you roll a 1, it goes down. So you have to plan ahead a little bit. Do you go for small and frequent, or big and sort of big plan. Okay, defend the priest. He's preparing the spell. Not a spell. It's like he's praying. He's on hold to the gods. His prayer is important to them and will be answered shortly. And then your opponent gets it. If he gets that off, right, he has to die this turn. I like that. I like the way that feels flavourful to me. So, yeah, like that. The next one, number 2 of my likes, is how they've... Quite sure how to describe this. So, back in the day, you got a... so wizards and priests, but we'll use wizards as the example. You had a spell on your card. You had a spell on your card that you could cast. There were a couple of spells that were open to everyone. Mystic Shield, Arcane Bolt. They appear to be completely gone. And you could have a spell lore. And when you pick the spell lore, you would pick a spell from that lore, and you have that spell as well. And very often, you wouldn't end up using the one from your spell lore, or you wouldn't end up using the one from your card, because they don't really match each other, and some of them are quite difficult to pull off. But you had a spell, and you cast it. A lot of the time, Mystic Shield was the spell of choice, because making a 3+ save into a 2+ save was pretty effective. That appears to be gone. Now, when you're picking your army, there are other enhancements and things, but amongst all the enhancements, you pick a spell lore, a prayer lore, and a manifestation lore. And all the wizards in your army know all the spells in that spell lore. All the priests in your army know all the prayers in that prayer lore. And all of the wizards and priests in your army know the manifestations in the manifestation lore. So, that means a couple of things. So you still have the restrictions on most spells can only be cast or attempted once per phase. Some have the unlimited rule on them, which means you can do them multiple times. I haven't got any spell laws to work with. There aren't any in the book. In the previous edition, you had the generic enhancements, the generic spell laws in the book. Gone. They're all going to be, I infer, in the faction packs. So, have to take into account the fact that I haven't seen any of these, and I'm hoping they are as they are now. They're sort of 4, 5, 6 spells, and there's maybe one spell in each lore that's unlimited, so you can cast it a lot. And but because all of your wizards will know all of the spells in that lore, you can use the right tool at the right time. How many times, I don't know about you guys, but me, how many times have you played a game where you've gone, there's the perfect spell for that, didn't pick it? Well, this is going to give us some utility, and it's going to mean that we see spells being used and that we would never previously have done, because the way this works is going to really lend itself to variety. Really going to lend itself to variety. So, same principle, spell lore, prayer lore. Yeah, all your priests get the prayers, all your wizards get the spells. Great. If you've got multiple ones in each army, you pick one of each. Daughters of Cain are a good example off the top of my head. They have wizards and they have priests. So do Sigmarites. I'm sure there are others. Then there's the manifestation lore. So these are your endless spells and your evocations. They are a lore in their own right. Everyone knows all of them because you've picked the lore, which means you can choose to just summon them. Yes, they're hard to do, and yes, there are restrictions, and good ones are hard, and easy ones and not so good ones are easy, but You can just summon them. They also can't be, from what I can see, I can't see any way that you can unbind them or cancel them out when they're summoned. There's an ability called Banish that you can use in your own hero phase, and a wizard or priest can attempt to banish a manifestation. There's rules in there for that, but it's only in your own hero phase. And now, whereas before priests could get rid of invocations and endless spells, but wizards could only get rid of endless spells, they're all manifestations now, and they can both get rid of both. But I love the fact, and yes, of course, this is to make you go out and buy the endless spells. But I like the endless spells, so I'm happy. Again, you don't see a lot of the endless spells because people don't pay the points to include them in their lists, and a number of times you think, yeah, I could really do with that giant fungus mushroom at this point, or that cauldron that scuttles along. Or you've paid the points for it, you think, I better summon it. I mean, I'd far rather cast Mystic Shield, but if I've paid the points for it, so I'm going to use it. And then it does nothing. And then your unit just dies, and you think, yeah, Mystic Shield would have been better. Not that Mystic Shield's a thing anymore, from what I can see. It's probably in someone's lore. It's probably in Lumineth or Stormcast or something. It's probably one spell in someone's lore. There are probably other ones that do the same thing and have different names. Don't know, speculating. But I like the fact that we're basically going to see lots of wild magic. And I don't know how they're going to organise all of the existing endless spells and invocations, the generic ones. I imagine that's going to come out with the faction packs. So it might be that we're digging through our endless spells collections, and the big chompy teeth of Gur and the swords. The swords and the shackles, maybe they're all the Charmanite manifestations or something, and when you pick it up, you pick the Charmanite one, so your wizard conjures up a bunch of swords, and then you've got a model on the table. And substantially, they've changed them so they're basically units that you summon. Now, there's a big, very wordy blurb about how they're not units, but you treat them like units in this respect. Basically, they act as units. There's some things they can do, there's some things they can't do. So they can take damage, you can attack them. Their movement is in some ways restricted like units, and in other ways isn't. So you've got other ways of interacting with them. I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying if they end in combat, they fight and you can fight them. Rather than before, you end up within half an inch of them, and they take mortal wounds. Your target takes mortal wounds, and you just stand there and go, well, this magic giant lizard I'm not stabbing, but this non-magic giant lizard I am stabbing, because it's a unit rather than a spell. What I don't know, and we'll find out through play, or I'll find out through play, whether it needed both the banish ability and the ability just to attack them, or whether that's going to mean they all just get obliterated straight away. But because you can't banish until the following turn, and because generally speaking your opponent won't be attacking in your turn, that sometimes maybe it looks like you'll get to use them. And the individual cards might say how long they stay around, so you might be able to sort of start creating loads of them. It does say that you can't do the same one multiple times in the same turn. Fine. So my Fireslayer's molten thingy bob, I might be summoning it one turn and it still might be there. I might summon another one the next turn because I've ended up somehow with like 3 of them. I think it's 3 of them. Yeah. So yeah, I like that. So those are my 3 likes, 3 not likes so muches, and 3 things that I think will split the room. Yes, and that's pretty much the end of the video, really. To summarise, I'm looking forward to playing this book. It is going to be different to 3rd edition. No, I've missed one. I haven't. I've missed. I can't count. I nearly missed. I didn't. You should still be here. The savvy amongst you will have noticed there was a lot of runtime left and not gone away. Whew, nearly. The third thing I really like is, as I said, a bit of a cop-out because it's a collection of little things which none of them in their own right would really appear on a list of, yeah, these are the things I love about the new edition. But they all accumulate to give it a nice feel. It just makes it feel good. There just seems to be, oh yes, I like that, and oh, I can see, yes, that's going to be a benefit, and yeah. So, what are they? So the first one is jumping down. So, third ed, you're on a big building, and you want to jump off a ledge. If you want to climb down from a ledge, you had to go, right, I need 4 inches to get down to the bottom of that, and the guy at the back needs 4 inches, but he only gets 2 inches to the edge, then he's down 2 and doesn't quite do. Now, jump down. If you're on an elevated position, you can just say, the unit's going to jump down, and they just move the, that is their move. You take them from where they are to the bottom. Nice. Simple, much less hassle, makes much more sense. So, I like that. The next thing is the changes they've made to the pile-in move. So before it was, you have to move towards the nearest model but not end up further away than that. It wasn't particularly clear. But now they've made it really clear and crisp. And whilst that's not normally my thing, in this particular scenario, it's going to make my head hurt much less than it does at the moment by thinking, well, am I further away than that? Can I want to move them here, but can I? Because this model was technically nearer at the start, and now when you use the pile-in ability, you pick an enemy that you're in close combat with, and you move. No model can end up. You move 3 inches. No model can end up further away than it started. You can move through other people's engagement range. You can end up within engagement range of other models, but you just can't end up any further away than that unit. And that might even be exactly how it worked after all the various General's Handbook updates and rules errata and so on. That might even have been the actual rule, but I found that really difficult to keep in my head in third ed. So that, in my head, rent-free. Like it. The next one is, and I'm pretty sure this has already been on the Warhammer community. So now, if you are in combat, you cannot shoot unless you have a specific ability on your weapon that says you can shoot whilst you're in combat. So it makes sense to me that some units can, I don't know, some of the Stormcast who are armed with a sword and a lightning crossbow that they can sort of stab, shoot, and fight that way. I imagine they're going to have that ability. But it didn't so much make sense to me that all your archers who are not, the scrawny human archers, for instance, who aren't particularly martial, they're able to sort of dodge blows and draw arrows and shoot and fire at whoever they want with zero penalty whatsoever. I never used to particularly like that. Now, if you're in combat, the ones that should be able to shoot whilst they are otherwise occupied can, and the ones that shouldn't can't. I like that. Nice change. Simple, straightforward narrative. Next one. There's two more of this, which is one. Of one, this is... Wait. There's two more. And again, we already know about this one, but in the way they've rejigged the command point structure, so you have 4 a battle round, and everything comes off the standard list. All of the things that used to be, you could activate this ability with a command point, they all appear to have gone into once per battle or once per turn abilities on cards. Fine, no problem with that. The one I particularly like is the countercharge command. So, okay, you can no longer fire Overwatch. And that's a shame. Unleash Hell. And that's a shame. I liked that. I imagine they took it out so that you didn't have to face 2 rounds of fire and units would die when they're charging into something. Okay. But the ability to charging your opponent's face really makes things really quite tactical. Okay, it's 2 CP, and you're only ever going to have 4 CP, so it's over the course of a battle round. It's a big spend, but it's so cool. It's it's protect the king. So the enemy come charging into the king's units, and they're like, no, protect the king, and charge in like that. That's gonna give some nice moments. I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to those moments. And the last one is what they've done with terrain. Last time, terrain was, it has to block line of sight. All models have to be within an inch, and then it does one bit of, 1 point of save. But it felt really convoluted, and garrisoning buildings was a nice idea, but I don't know how often you guys saw it. I tried it once, found it didn't really work particularly well, because it basically just meant that this building now had 40 people in it that could all attack one dude who was stood on a corner outside going, is anyone in? 40 swords. So what they've done, effectively, you've got sort of the concept of area terrain and obstacles, and the terrain now has qualities. Now, it's similar to 8th Ed 40k, 9th Ed 40k, except it doesn't have the list of 50 crazy abilities that make absolutely no sense. There's a bunch of things like unstable, you can't move on top of it, but the two call-outs for me, the ones that I will use and I will see again and again, cover. If you're in it, you get +1 save, and there's some wrinkles about unless you've charged and that kind of stuff, but yeah, +1 save for being in it. Great. And obscuring. You can't shoot through this. Dead simple. Effective. At the start of the game, you can stand there with your opponent and go, obscuring, yep, cover for that one, no, that's a hill, alright, fair enough, cover for that one. Nice and straightforward. I can see that making a good impact in my games. So they're the 3, 4, 5, they're the 5 little things that make up a big thing that I like. There's lots of little bits like that I think just round it off really nicely and are going to make it play smoother and fluffier from my perspective. So there you go. Now you've had the 3 things I like, 3 things I'm not so keen on, and the 3 things that split the room. I hope you've enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you have and you want to support me, check out the description of the channel. There's ways listed in there that you can do that, like the video, channel memberships, Patreon. But to be honest, if you've enjoyed the video and you found it helpful, that's a-okay with me. I am happy with that. I appear to have forgotten how to finish talking to camera, so I'm just gonna say take care, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.